The rumor of a ship. The galaxy was wide and full of countless voices, but one voice began to rise above all the others. A whisper, quiet at first, then louder as it spread from port to port, from ship to ship, from one alien world to the next. The whisper carried a story, and the story carried fear. It was said that humanity, the small species from the forgotten blue planet called Earth, had built a ship unlike any other, a ship so powerful that it could erase entire fleets with only a single strike. At first, no one believed it. They laughed at the idea, mocking humans as dreamers who spoke big words but had no teeth to bite. For centuries, the great empires of the stars had looked down on humanity. To them, Earth was weak, slow to expand, always behind in weapons and ships. They called humans the children of dust, and treated them as second class. In councils and markets, humans were often ignored, their warnings dismissed, their trade undervalued. But then, something changed. A mining ship returned from the far reaches of space with a story too strange to ignore. The crew swore they had seen it, a vessel that filled the void like a floating city, black as the deepest night. The hull shone with lines of fire, like veins of living metal. They said it moved without sound, without signal, without fear. The galaxy laughed again, but uneasily this time. What if the rumor was true? What if the humans had really built something that no empire could match? No one wanted to believe it, yet no one could forget it either. The rumor grew stronger, carried by frightened voices and shaky recordings from dying scouts. In the dark halls of the Galactic Council, leaders argued in secret. Some called it a human lie, a trick to make the galaxy hesitate. Others whispered that if such a ship existed, it could shift the balance of power forever. Fleets had been built over thousands of years, but no one had ever spoken of a single ship being enough to erase them all. The humans, for their part, remained silent. When questioned, Earth's ambassadors simply smiled, their eyes calm, their words measured. They neither denied nor confirmed, and that silence was louder than any boast. It made the galaxy uneasy, for silence can be far more dangerous than words. Merchants in spaceports told their customers of freighters that vanished near human space. Captains swore they had seen flashes. In the dark, like stars dying in an instant, small colonies whispered about shadow-like shapes drifting past their moons, never answering calls, never firing, only watching. The legend of the warship grew until it was no longer just a story. It became a shadow in every corner of the galaxy. Some brave or foolish alien scouts tried to prove the rumor false. They entered Terran borders with hidden sensors, hoping to spy on this so-called phantom ship. Most never returned. The few that did spoke of silence, of endless black, of a presence so large their instruments failed to measure it. They came back broken, their voices trembling, swearing they had faced something beyond reason. And still, no one could prove the truth. Was it real, or was it only a ghost humans had created in the minds of their enemies? Yet deep inside, every admiral, every ruler, every council member felt the same cold fear. What if the rumor was not a ghost? What if the humans had done the impossible? On a forgotten station at the edge of the outer rim, two alien dock workers argued as they unloaded crates. One said the humans could never build such a ship. They were too young, too weak. The other shook his head and whispered, if they were weak, would the council be meeting in secret? Would fleets vanish without a trace? The first fell silent because no answer could kill that fear. By the time the rumor reached the core worlds, it had already taken shape in every mind. They called it many names: the Black City, the Silent Star, the Aegis. But all names meant one thing: a ship too strong, too dangerous, too human. It was no longer just a rumor, it was a shadow that lived in the thoughts of the galaxy's mightiest fleets, and somewhere, far from their councils and courts, drifting through the endless dark, a shape waited, silent, patient, hidden. The rumor was not just a story, the rumor was true. Shadows in the void. The void between stars had always been silent, but lately that silence felt heavy. Ships that entered Terran borders often failed to return. Their signals blinked once, then vanished into darkness. No distress calls, no wreckage, no survivors, only silence. The first to vanish were smugglers, pirates, and small raiders, No one cared much. Many said it was justice. Humans were simply defending their borders. But then it happened to scouts, trained soldiers with powerful ships. When fleets lost contact with them, the whispers grew louder. One crew returned, but they were broken. Their ship drifted into a neutral port, hull burned and half-scorched. The crew refused to speak, their eyes wide, hands shaking. When forced to talk, they muttered only one word again and again: Colossus. It was not the name of their own ship, but of something they swore they had seen. Stories spread like fire. A vessel larger than any dreadnought, larger than any station. A ship that moved without sound, without energy trails, cloaked by something beyond alien understanding. They said it fired once, and a cruiser disappeared. Not destroyed, not broken, just gone like dust in the wind. Alien admirals dismissed the tale as madness. They told their people it was fear, nothing more. But in secret, they looked at their own fleets and felt doubt. Could even their greatest armadas face such a weapon? Could thousands of ships stand against something designed to fight them all? The Galactic Council sent another expedition, this time stronger. Not scouts, but a strike group, 50 ships armed and ready. They entered Terran space with shields up and weapons glowing. They searched the void, scanning stars, scanning moons, scanning empty black. For 3 days, nothing happened. The crews began to relax, laughing, mocking the rumor once again. On the 4th day, their laughter ended. Sensors caught a shape on the edge of the system. No engine light, no transponder code, only a shadow drifting in the dark. At first they thought it was a dead rock, but the shadow turned, and when it turned, it blocked the stars behind it. The fleet opened hails. No answer came. They charged weapons. Warning shots fired. The shadow moved closer, silent, patient, vast. It was then they understood. This was no dead rock, this was the ship. The commanders panicked, orders clashed over comms. Some wanted to retreat, some wanted to attack. But before a decision was made, the void lit up. A single beam of light cut across the stars. It was not fire, not plasma, not anything the galaxy had ever known. It was raw force, silent and perfect. In one instant, 3 cruisers were gone, erased without sound, without debris, just gone. The fleet scattered, chaos erupted, fighters launched, weapons fired, explosions tore across the sky. But the shadow did not slow. It moved through there, formation like a predator through a herd. Each strike was final. Each weapon of the coalition seemed like a child's toy against it. In less than an hour, 30 ships were gone. The survivors fled in blind terror. The shadow did not chase them. It only drifted back into the void. Silent once more. The survivors. Reports reached the council within days. But even before the official news, the galaxy already knew. Merchants whispered it in every market. Smugglers shouted it in every bar. Even the core worlds trembled at the story. The council tried to hide the truth. They called it lies, said the battle never happened, said the missing ships were lost in hyperspace storms. But people are not fools. When 50 ships vanish, rumors become truth. The galaxy began to fear the humans, not for their numbers, not for their colonies, but for the shadow that guarded them. The warship was no longer just a rumor. It had become a nightmare. And on Earth, in quiet chambers deep below the planet's surface, human leaders watched the council's reaction with calm eyes. They had not built the ship to conquer, but to survive. And now, survival meant fear. The shadow in the void was not just a weapon, it was a message that humanity would never kneel, never break, never be mocked again. First contact with the warship. The Galactic Council could not stay silent any longer. Too many fleets had vanished. Too many witnesses had returned broken, trembling, swearing they had seen the shadow. The galaxy demanded answers. The Council decided there was only one way to prove the truth: send a grand fleet and face the humans directly. They gathered 100 ships, cruisers, battleships, carriers, each armed with the newest weapons, the best shields, and crews sworn to the Council. The admirals believed their strength in numbers would crush whatever waited in the dark. They told their people it would be quick, simple, a final lesson to the humans. The fleet moved across the stars, engines burning bright, banners of empire glowing on their hulls. They entered the Terran border without warning, without words, without parley. Their mission was destruction. At first they saw nothing, only empty void, silent as ever. The admirals began to laugh again, claiming the humans had tricked the galaxy with shadows and fear. But then the stars dimmed. One by one, the lights faded, and a shape rose from the darkness. It was larger than anything they had imagined. A black wall stretching across space, a ship so massive it seemed endless. The hull was alive with glowing lines pulsing like veins of fire. At its center burned a single red core, steady, patient, watching. The admirals froze. Their crews whispered. Some prayed, some cursed, some refused to believe. But there was no denying the truth anymore. The human warship was real. The Council fleet opened hails, demanding identification. The warship gave no answer. It only turned, its vast shadow sliding across their formation like a mountain moving through clouds. Weapons locked, shields rose, orders screamed across comms. Then the warship fired. There was no sound, no warning, only a flash. One battleship was erased in a single breath, not broken, not shattered, simply erased. The admirals panicked, firing all weapons at once. Plasma bolts, railgun shells, beams of light. The void lit up with fire, brighter than suns. But the warship did not burn. The weapon struck its hull. Yet the glow of its veins only grew stronger, as if feeding on the attacks. The human ship moved, forward, cutting through the storm. Calm, unstoppable fighters launched from the carriers, swarming like insects. They darted across its surface, firing again and again, but their weapons melted before they even touched the hull. A wave of energy pulsed from the warship, and in an instant, every fighter was gone. The admirals shouted, voices breaking. Retreat was ordered, then canceled, then ordered again. Chaos spread faster than the fire. The warship fired once more, and a carrier vanished. The red core pulsed, steady as a heartbeat. The fleet tried to scatter, but the warship was faster than its size suggested. It moved like a predator, choosing targets, erasing them one by one, not chasing, not rushing, only moving with calm patience, as if it had all the time in the universe. In less than an hour, 40 ships were gone. The survivors fled in every direction, their formations shattered. No one dared to fight, no one dared to look back. The warship did not follow, it did not boast, it did not speak. It only drifted back into the void, silent, watching, waiting. The survivors carried the story home. Their voices cracked, their eyes hollow. They swore the humans had created a god of war, a single ship that could crush entire civilizations. They spoke of the red core that glowed like an eye, unblinking, unmerciful. The galaxy trembled. The Council tried to spin the story again, calling the survivors liars, calling the battle an accident. But the people knew the truth. Fear had spread too far, too deep, and far away on Earth. The ship rested once more, its crew calm, their mission unchanged. They had not fired out of hunger for conquest. They had fired to send a message. The message was clear. Humanity would not kneel. Humanity would not be mocked. Humanity would not be erased. The first contact was over. The galaxy would never forget it. Fear spreads across the stars. Fear is a strange thing. It does not travel on ships. It does not need fuel. It does not wait for orders. Fear moves faster than light, and soon, fear of the human warship reached every world in the galaxy. On distant colonies, merchants closed their markets early, whispering that humanity had built a weapon strong enough to erase entire fleets. On mining outposts, workers refused to enter Terran space, swearing they had seen the shadow between asteroids, drifting silently, watching them. The Galactic Council tried to control the story. They called the survivors cowards, liars, broken minds unfit for truth. But no words could erase the scars. The images carried by fleeing ships, flashes of red light, shadows larger than moons, cruisers vanishing in silence, were enough. Even if most of the recordings were scrambled, the fragments were enough to spread terror. The council chambers grew louder with each passing day. Admirals demanded a new attack, politicians begged for peace, spies brought tales of human silence. The humans gave no answer to hails, no explanation. They neither claimed victory nor denied their power. They simply waited, and that silence was worse than any threat. Among the common people of the galaxy, stories grew wild. Some said the warship was not built but alive, a creature born from Earth's oceans, remade in metal. Some swore it was crewed by ghosts, the dead of old wars guiding its path. Others whispered that it needed no crew at all, that it thought and breathed on its own, children in the core. Worlds woke screaming in the night, calling out about the red eye in the dark. Priests in temples spoke of omens, declaring the humans had awakened a punishment sent by the stars themselves. In secret, empires began to prepare. Fleets were recalled from borders. Shipyards burned with new orders. Weapons never before tested were rushed into production. But for all their effort, the fear remained, because deep inside they all asked the same question. If 100 ships could not survive, how could 1,000? Meanwhile, life on Earth went on quietly. Farmers planted, children studied, merchants traded. The warship, hidden beyond the stars, rested in silence. Humanity did not speak of it. They let the galaxy wonder. They let the galaxy tremble. On a dusty trade world in the outer rim, two alien merchants argued in a crowded market. One said the warship was nothing but a myth. The other leaned closer and whispered, "If it is only a myth, then why do fleets vanish? Why do admirals tremble? Why does the council lie?" The first merchant had no answer, and silence fell between them. In the military academies of alien worlds, cadets studied human history with new fear. They saw a species that had survived wars, famine, and collapse, yet never surrendered. A species that built in secret, that learned from loss, that waited until the right moment to strike. And now, they had built a ship that proved their will. The galaxy had mocked humanity for centuries, called them weak, called them children. Now those same voices trembled at their name. On the council floor, the debate turned desperate. Some wanted to unite all fleets and strike Earth at once. Others warned that such a war would doom them all. Because if one ship could erase fleets, what if Earth had built more than one? The silence of the humans gave no clue, and that unknown weighed heavier than truth. Whispers reached even the thrones of emperors. Rulers who had never feared anyone now woke in the night, staring at the stars outside their windows, wondering if the shadow was watching them too. They dreamed of red light, of fleets turning to dust, of humanity standing alone, untouchable. The fear was not just military, it was cultural. It touched art, religion, trade, and even love. Poets wrote verses of the silent ship, singers sang ballads of the red eye. Some cursed humanity, others admired them, but no one ignored them. Across the galaxy, every world knew one truth. A single human ship had changed everything. The balance of power was broken, the chains of old empires had cracked, and for the first time the galaxy wondered not if humans could fight but what else they could do. In the silence of their fear, one thought united them all. If one ship could spread such terror, what would happen if humanity chose to build another? Humanity's secret revealed, for weeks the galaxy drowned in fear. Fleets stood still. Merchants refused routes. Leaders whispered in locked chambers. But silence cannot last forever, and in silence, spies always work. It began with stolen data, cracked files pulled from human colonies at the edge of space. The reports were fragmented, but they spoke of something called Project Aegis, a hidden plan buried deep inside Earth's military. At first the Council dismissed it, saying the files were too broken to trust, but then more reports appeared, each one pointing to the same truth. Humanity had been building the warship for decades. No one understood how. Earth was small compared to the empires, with fewer colonies and fewer resources. Yet somehow, the humans had hidden their greatest project right in plain sight. Every trade ship that left Earth carried small pieces, metal components, fuel cells, experimental cores. No one noticed, because no one cared to notice. Humans were ignored, mocked, and left alone. And in that shadow of neglect, they had built their monster. The warship was called the Aegis. Some whispered the name meant shield, others swore it meant sword. Either way, the galaxy finally understood. It was never meant to conquer. It was meant to defend. But in building their shield, the humans had forged something far more dangerous. The Council sent agents to confirm the truth. They bribed human workers, hacked into systems, even sent disguised scouts. What they found terrified them. The ship's core was unlike anything ever seen. Not plasma, not antimatter, but a new power born from human desperation. The files called it the Singularity Drive, a reactor that fed itself, growing stronger the more it was attacked. Admirals shook their heads in disbelief. How could such a young species leap so far ahead? How could humans, who once begged for scraps at the Council's table, now build a ship that laughed at fleets? The answer was bitter. Humanity had been underestimated. They were never weak. They were simply patient. But the truth cut deeper. The Aegis was not just a machine. It was built by hands that had known fear, loss, and survival. Engineers who worked in secret, pilots who trained in silence, leaders who kept their mouths shut even as the galaxy mocked them. Every bolt, every wire, every weapon was forged with one purpose: to make sure humanity would never be humiliated again. The revelation spread like wildfire. Empires argued that Earth must be crushed before it built another. Others trembled at the idea, warning that humanity had surely begun already. If the Aegis was real, why would they stop at one? Why would they not prepare more shadows in the void? Meanwhile, inside Earth's hidden bunkers, the truth was spoken clearly. The Aegis was the first, but it was not the last. Humanity had learned the galaxy's lesson. To survive, they would need strength that no one could challenge, and so, while the galaxy searched for answers, Earth kept building. In the academies of alien worlds, the secret broke the hearts of young cadets. For years they had been taught that humans were weak, but now they saw weakness was a mask, a trap. Humanity had been watching, waiting, learning. While others wasted their pride on empty wars, the Council grew desperate. Some suggested striking now, uniting all empires in one grand fleet to destroy Earth before it was too late. But others argued it was already too late. If the Aegis was strong enough to erase 100 ships, what could stop it from erasing thousands? The most chilling thought of all was whispered only in private halls. What if the Aegis had not yet shown its full power? What if the battles so far were only a fraction of its true strength? In quiet corners of the galaxy, small voices began to rise. Some species had suffered under the Council's iron rule for centuries. They looked at Earth not with fear, but with hope. If humanity could stand against the great empires, perhaps there was a chance for freedom. The shadow of the Aegis was terrible, but to the oppressed it was also a light. The revelation was clear now. Humanity had never been helpless. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply hidden their claws until the day they were ready to strike, and that day had come. The final stand. The Galactic Council could no longer delay. Fear had turned into panic. Empires that once fought each other now stood shoulder to shoulder, not out of trust, but out of desperation. They gathered the largest armada the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of ships, carriers stretching like cities, dreadnoughts glowing with fire, swarms of fighters buzzing like storms. It was said that every fleet from every empire had sent something. Even the smallest colonies added their warships. The stars themselves seemed to dim under the weight of so much steel. So many voices called it impossible. No one ship, no matter how strong, could survive such a storm. Humanity would be crushed. The Aegis would be erased, but humanity did not flinch. From Earth's hidden command chambers came only one order. The Aegis would go alone. No fleets, no allies, no armies. Oh, single ship against the galaxy. The two forces met in the black between suns. The void was alive with energy. Thousands of ships, burning bright, their signals thundering across channels. And then came silence. Because from the edge of the system, the Aegis appeared, drifting calm. its black hull shining with red veins, its great core pulsing like a heartbeat. The Armada opened hails, demanding surrender. Humanity gave no answer. The warship moved forward. Slow, patient, unshaken, the admirals grew angry, then afraid. They gave the order. Fire. The galaxy erupted. Thousands of beams, missiles, rail shells, plasma storms. The void itself seemed to break. Light brighter than suns washed over the Aegis, and when the storm faded, it was still there. The hull glowed brighter, alive. The singularity drive had fed on their fury. Every attack only made it stronger. The Aegis fired. The beam cut across space, and a line of battleships vanished as if wiped clean from existence. The fleet broke formation, panic spreading. Fighters swarmed. Dreadnoughts screamed fire. But nothing slowed it. Every weapon they had, every strategy, every desperate trick. The Aegis met it with calm destruction. A carrier group tried to flank. They were gone in one flash. A dreadnought launched its ultimate weapon, a star-cracking missile. The Aegis absorbed it, the red veins glowing brighter, and then the dreadnought was erased. The battle was chaos. Thousands of voices cried. Thousands of ships burned. The galaxy's pride shattered piece by piece. The Aegis did not chase, did not waste time. It moved with purpose, each strike precise, each enemy destroyed as if chosen. Hours passed. The greatest fleet in history fell apart. Survivors screamed for retreat. Admirals begged for mercy. But there was no reply. The Aegis only pressed forward, calm, patient, unyielding. When the last carrier fell, silence returned. The void was littered with wreckage, drifting bodies of ships that once ruled the stars. Of thousands, only a handful fled, broken, silent, terrified. The Aegis stopped. It did not enter enemy space. It did not fire at fleeing survivors. It simply stood alone, a shadow among the ruins. The message was clear. Humanity had faced the galaxy united, and the galaxy had lost on alien worlds. The news struck like thunder. Entire empires wept, not from pity, but from fear. They had sent everything, and everything had failed. The greatest fleet the stars had ever seen was gone, but among the broken and oppressed, voices rose. They whispered that the humans had done the impossible. If one small world could rise against the galaxy and win, perhaps others could rise too. Perhaps empires were not eternal. Perhaps the chains could break. The council tried to hide the numbers, tried to call the defeat a battle lost to chaos. But no words could hide the truth. The galaxy had seen the light. The red glow of the Aegis had burned into their memories, and on Earth the people did not celebrate with cheers. They only stood silent, because they knew the war was not about glory. It was about survival. Humanity had shown the galaxy that survival meant power, and power had spoken. The final stand was over. The Aegis had not fallen. The galaxy trembled. The galaxy trembles. The battle was over. The void was quiet again, but it was not the same silence as before. This silence was heavy, heavy with the weight of fear, loss, and awe. Wreckage of thousands of ships floated across the dark, glowing, faintly as fires died out. The proud banners of empires were nothing more than drifting ashes. The survivors returned home, their voices broken. They spoke of a single ship that moved like a god, a shadow with a red heart. They swore no weapon could touch it, no fleet could match it. Some even refused to speak at all. Their eyes haunted by the memory of ships vanishing without trace. Across the galaxy, the people trembled. They had mocked humanity for centuries, called them weak, called them children. Now those same mouths whispered the name of Earth with dread. No one laughed. Any more, the joke was dead in council chambers. Leaders sat in silence. Once they argued with fire, now they stared at each other with pale faces. Some demanded another attack, but their words rang hollow. Others whispered of peace, of treaties, of submission. For the first time in history, the council was afraid. Among the oppressed, however, hope flickered. on mining worlds ruled by cruel overseers, on colonies crushed by imperial taxes. Voices rose. If humans can stand, why not us? They whispered, if Earth can defy the galaxy, perhaps we too can be free. The shadow of the Aegis was terrifying, but it also lit sparks in hearts long chained. The galaxy trembled, not only from fear, but from change. The old balance of power was broken. No empire could claim to be strongest anymore, because everyone knew strength belonged to humanity now. But humanity did not march, did not conquer, did not demand surrender. Earth sent no fleets into alien space. The Aegis returned home, silent as before, drifting into Terran borders, disappearing. Into the dark, humanity's message was already spoken. The message was clear. We are not weak. We are not prey. We will not bow. On alien worlds, poets wrote of the red eye that burned in the void. Children carved the shape of the Aegis in sand. Priests declared it a sign of destiny. Admirals swore never to face it again. The legend had grown beyond flesh and steel. The Aegis had become more than a ship. It was a myth, a symbol, a shadow that lived in every mind, even in the most powerful. Palaces' rulers woke in the night, staring at the stars, wondering if the humans watched them. Some dreamed of fire, some dreamed of mercy, all dreamed of the same thing, the red glow of a heart that could not be stopped. Inside Earth's hidden command, the crew of the Aegis remained calm. They were not heroes, not gods. They were humans, tired but unbroken. They knew the galaxy would come again one day and they would be ready. Humanity had learned the truth long ago. In a galaxy that mocked them, survival was the only law, and survival belonged to those who refused to bend. The galaxy trembled because one ship had erased fleets, but deeper than that, it trembled because humanity had revealed its true self. Not weak, not small, but patient, cunning, relentless. Humanity had shown it could wait in the shadows, endure every insult, every humiliation, until the day came when its answer would shake the stars, and that answer had arrived. The Aegis drifted in silence, its red veins glowing softly, watching, waiting. For the galaxy, it was a nightmare. For humanity, it was a promise. The galaxy trembled, and it would tremble for 1,000 years.